All right, welcome everybody to week 3 of creating better videos for your piano students and tutorial videos as well. Let me show a couple of videos that show the difference between having motion and not having motion. So let's go ahead and pull this one up. This is my daughter, and I'm going to go back to a year where we didn't do any motion. Okay, I got some overexposure going on here. And it's a very static shot. Now, someone should listen to the acoustics a little. Is there a little too much reverb, maybe? Could have thrown some pillows or brought a couch up. All right. So now let's go to the next year. We did... So really, I was experimenting with like just some different angles. I really liked the one that came around her back. And maybe it was just me, but that one was an experiment and I tried it and I liked it. Okay, you saw the hidden trick. All right, so this one I was really just playing around with some ideas on motion, and I wanted to try a bunch of different ones just to get some ideas. And I think that's a good idea for you guys, is just try different movements and see what things you like. But just a second ago, you can see my reflection in the piano. Did anybody catch that? You notice I'm sitting down. I'm actually on a rolly chair. So I'm pushing myself around the piano on the stage in a rolly chair, just to see. I kind of made a self gimbal, see if it worked. And a lot of it I really liked. You notice I also experimented with going in really close on the fingers and even getting the mirror part of the fingers. I feel like for me, it just added variety. As you experiment this week with your movement in this, add some variety, do some things that maybe you think, well, this might not work, or this is going to be stupid. Try it out and just see what happens. See if you like an effect that you create. Come up around the backside of the piano, like over the top of their head. Come up behind them over their fingers. Put the camera in their face. Do just some different things that could be creative. See what you come up with. Joel, are you ready to go ahead and show this live, or you need a few minutes?
So what we're going to do is I've got my phone, and then we have this over here. So the first thing I'm going to be looking at is I'm coming over here and I'm looking at Aaron, and I can see him through my camera angle right here. So what you're seeing from my phone is the same thing I'm seeing. And right away I'm looking and I'm saying, you know what?
My dork pouch?
Yeah.
Throw that
off.
The
first thing I'm looking at is I'm seeing, I don't love the lighting here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here. I'm going to grab this light, and I'm going to bring it over, and I'm going to turn it up a little bit. And so Aaron, go ahead and sit there and look at the difference here. Like if I take this light away versus when I bring this light over, hopefully you can see that, but it just brings Aaron's face and everything much more brightly. And then, yeah, let's get one on that side, Aaron, and bring it back a little bit. Okay, now I realize we do kind of have a mess over here, so we're going to kind of pretend that's not there for the moment because we don't have time to clean all that up right now. But now as I walk around, I'm looking for even lighting, okay? And it's pretty decent. It's not maybe absolutely perfect. We could maybe use a little bit more light over here. Does this light have a battery, Aaron?
It doesn't.
Okay. So what I could do though is I could take this light and I can move it back just a little bit so I can get more light right here on the back of the head. I'm looking on this side. He's got light over here, and I'm just kind of trying to see so that when we're talking about lighting, we're talking about trying to go for even lighting as much as possible. So now when I come at this angle, it's not terrible, but it's not great. Now I happen to have one more light over here. So what I'm going to do is spin this guy around. Yeah, that's fine.
That one or this one?
Does that one reach closer?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, bring that one then. Just get it, Aaron, right about here. And this is where having multiple lights can be really handy. That circle light that we saw earlier is really cool. But this, if you have it now, these ones, some of these are kind of large. Like, yeah, you can see this is called a soft box, and you'll notice on the front it has this white screen, and inside of it there are lights. And what that
2 diffusers.
Yeah, it's a diffuser. So that spreads the light out so that it's a softer light, and that helps the camera angle out a lot. So you can look for something like this too. It is a little bulkier, but it does do a nice job with that.
I think we have that on the agenda too.
Yeah, I think it's on the list of possible equipment. So let's go ahead and flip that on. And now there's one thing, I don't know if you guys can see this too well. I'll try to demonstrate it. Look at the color of the light there. Okay, it's a very kind of almost bluish kind of light. And then if you come over here, this light is pretty yellow.
I'm going to change it to
So
5K.
Aaron has an adjustment on the back of this to change the color temperature. So let's turn that up, and hopefully you can see it's more of a blue light now, which is going to match that light more closely. Now this light's very yellow, so let's adjust that one as well. There we go. So now we've got a similar color temperature of light coming from multiple sources, which is just going to help it feel more seamless. So now when I come over here, Aaron's face is much more better. Oh, I'm kind of standing in front of it. Did I say more better?
More better.
It's more better.
It's more gooder.
It's more gooder. There we go. So this is looking good. So what we're going to do is pretend like we're doing a quick recording. But really, I guess we are recording and Zoom anyway.
Did Josh have the spotlight
Yes.
on both of those? So
Yes.
They
Just
were
like that.
actually able to see you. That's great.
Yep. Just like that. Yep.
Beautiful.
So this gave us a way to do that. Now, I didn't check sound before doing this. So this is a situation where, you know, I'm literally just, you know, here walking around with my cell phone. So we're, you know, in this example, we're kind of counting on the microphone built in to capture the sound. That's not, you know, sometimes you can get by with that. It's not always the best option, but for a quick demonstration, and as you can see, just by me taking a minute to walk around a little bit, I was able to make a more interesting video with this one camera. Now, Aaron's showing you here, this is a GoPro with a gimbal. Now, you probably saw that I was walking around, you know, I guess you guys can see me over here, walking around with the camera and trying to hold my hands out and keep it as steady as possible. But a gimbal like this makes it much easier to do because as you can see, as Aaron's moving around, that camera just kind of go like this back and forth, Aaron. Hopefully you guys can see that, but you see how steady that camera stays. Okay, that's what a gimbal does, is it keeps your camera very, very steady as you're walking around. And that's how you get a really smooth, almost like gliding type of motion in your video footage that way. So it's a really cool way to.
It does take some practice, like learning how to do it. There's a button up here where I can actually lock my camera. And so you want to lock it and then turn it.
Yeah.
And it's still pretty smooth, but otherwise it just stays where it is. But if you lock it, then you can kind of have some control over it.
Yeah. So those are different options. And we're not saying that's something you have to do.
Now, do they make these for cell phones? I know this is a GoPro.
Yeah, they make them for cell phones. So you can buy gimbals for cell phones that'll do basically the same thing that you're seeing with this gimbal here. They vary in price. You know, some of them are a little cheaper and they can get pretty expensive depending on what you get. Again, this isn't an absolute necessity, but it does make for some really cool videos. But as you could see, even with me walking around and holding the camera out, and I'll come back over here a little closer to this camera, but even just by holding the camera out and kind of bending my knees and walking like this, I was able to get a fairly steady shot. Also, these iPhones, a lot of the iPhones have a pretty, they have pretty good stabilization inside of them. And the newer iPhones just keep getting better and better with that. So
can I hold your camera and show them the movement from sitting in a chair? Okay, so you can see me, I'm sitting in this rolly chair. And I can get a kind of a quick movement here. Let me get around the light. So you can get some interesting effects.
You will get a lot of noise doing it that way. So if you're going to do that, you want to make sure you're recording your audio digitally, probably.
Yeah, and we're not going to actually get to the digital audio until next week. Yeah. But that's a great point.
When you're rolling around now, we can hear you rolling around, but when you were recording from rolling around, we couldn't hear you rolling around. So what's the difference?
I cheated. So I was actually cheating when I did it with Miley. We did some audio editing.
Pre-recorded the audio.
So now you can't do that in the simple way. And there's a lot of really cool things you can do when we get into the intermediate recording. We're going to get into video editing software. And you can use just really small, simple things in video editing software that make a big, big difference, or you can go all out and just it goes so in depth that you can't learn it all. So we just want to show some really easy things to do with video editing software that makes you look really good. You can add titles on your video. You can do fades in your video. You can do different cuts from two different angles. Elizabeth, you mentioned that you didn't want to deal too much with the audio editing portion of it. You just wanted to keep it simple. So one of the things you can do is run a camera or two cameras simultaneously at the same time and then cut back and forth from different shots. And that's
I
a
wanna
really
cut-
simple thing to do.
Well, I really want to cut out my wrong notes though.
Okay, then you need to get into the yeah, there's ways to do it. In fact, I just did it this last week with a student and I recorded. I could show you how to do that next week, actually. It was really clever how we did it. I didn't have time to do a lot. So I'm like, hey, you have some pauses in here. I need to take out the pauses. So I can show you how to do that right in Camtasia or another video editing software. It's really simple. The wrong notes, we get into something completely different. They do that in studios. And I remember when I was doing my doctorate that I went into a studio and he's like, hey, I'll just change that E to a D sharp you missed. I'm like, you can do that? Like, that's way better than like re-recording it. And so he went into, what was it?
There's some programs.
It wasn't Logic. It was the other big one.
Melodyne.
Tools.
I can't remember what it was.
Pro Tools.
Pro Tools. Pro Tools was the one. Thank you. But he went into Pro Tools and he's like, I'll just change your note. I'm like, whoa, I didn't realize you could do that. But it was because he was recording it digitally and using audio samples. So we'll show a little bit on how to do that, but we don't want to get too deep. Just play the right notes.
But there's also techniques. There's also
On two or three takes maximum, right?
All right.